I've been looking at this. So shout out to Spidey Parker. So I'm gonna be probably looking at more of his stuff. But this video, it I had to like save this for when I stream, and it had me thinking which before we get into this, let me ask you this: which Spider-Man do you think had the more tragic story? In my opinion, I think it was Tom, but I'm curious of what others think as far as the live action wise. So, because I believe, because it's like each of them have a very very tragic story, but I feel the one to get who has more of a tragic story, if not Tom, I would say Andrew. I would say Andrew because he actually lost Gwen. So it's like you can't you really can't beat that. Actually, you just really just can't. But we actually gonna look at this because I'm curious of who has the more tragic story. So let's just get into it, and then after this, that's when we're gonna go and play some PlayStation 2 games. But let's look at this.
Men, three different worlds, three lives that, no matter how many times they swung in to save the day, kept getting torn apart by loss, bad timing, and impossible choices. We've seen them at their highest highs, stopping world-ending threats, winning the girl, earning the city's respect. But behind the mask, each one has been crushed by moments so devastating that even the people closest to them couldn't see the full weight they were carrying. The question is, whose story was the worst? Whose life was so unlucky, so packed with heartbreak, that even victory didn't feel like a win? To figure that out, let's start with Tobey Maguire. When Tobey's Peter Parker first swung onto screens in 2002, he wasn't the quippy, confident version we'd later see in other adaptations. He was awkward, poor, invisible to most of the people around him. And even before the spider bite, his life was already full of uphill battles. Raised by Aunt May and Uncle Ben after losing his parents, Peter's early years were shaped by quiet, steady love, but also the kind of financial strain that never really goes away. The Parker house wasn't a place for luxuries. Every dollar was stretched, every bill was felt. Peter was the kind of kid who understood the cost of life long before he understood the weight of responsibility. Then came the bite. In one night, Peter's body changed, but his world changed even faster. His decision to use his new powers for personal gain, stepping into a wrestling ring to make some quick money, set off the chain of events that would define him forever.
What are you doing up there?
Staying away from you.
That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?
See, that's the same time. That's the same time. This is the thing. If you would have kept this same energy, the same wisecracks, and more as the time goes by, I feel like he would have been the Spider-Man we know from the comics. Because I will say this, he quipped from time to time, but not all the time that we're used to. So it was like you're an amazing Peter Parker, but it was a Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong, he was whooping ass. He was whooping ass like Spider-Man does. But it was just a wisecrack, and that's always made his character. But that's just me.
Uncle Ben's murder wasn't just a tragedy, it was a direct consequence of Peter's own selfish choice to let a criminal walk away moments earlier. That guilt became the anchor around his neck for the rest of the trilogy. From then on, Peter's life became a balancing act that never tilted in his favor. As Spider-Man, he saved the city from supervillains like the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Sandman, and Venom. But every victory came with a personal loss. He couldn't keep a steady job without disappearing mid-shift.
Whoa! He stole that guy's pizza!
He missed classes, bombed exams, and risked failing out of college because responsibility always pulled him away. Even when he did well in school, there was no reward and just exhaustion. Mary Jane Watson was the person Peter loved most, but every time he tried to be with her, Spider-Man got in the way. He left her standing in the rain at the end of the first movie because he couldn't risk her safety. And when he finally confessed his feelings, villains like Doc Ock and Harry Osborn used her as leverage. Speaking of Harry, that friendship was another wound. The boy who Peter grew up with became one of his greatest enemies, poisoned by his father's legacy, and convinced that Spider-Man had killed him.
You swore to make Spider-Man pay. Now make him pay.
Pete's my best friend.
And I'm your father. You're weak. Avenge me.
Avenge me! No!
Damn.
The rift between them lasted years, turning every interaction into a tense standoff between loyalty and vengeance. Even when they finally reconciled in Spider-Man 3, it came at the cost of Harry's life. Financially, things never improved for Tobey's Peter. He was constantly broke, dodging eviction notices, scraping together rent money for a crumbling apartment.
Hi.
Hi. What's hi? Can I spend it?
I have a paycheck due this week, and
You're a month late again. Again.
I promise as soon as I...
If promises were crackers, my daughter would be fat.
I'm really sorry, Mr. Dickovich. You know, all I got is this 20 to the rest of the week.
Sorry
why would
doesn't
you do
pay the
that?
rent. And don't try to sneak past me. I have ears like a cat and eyes like a rodent.
While other heroes lived in mansions or got funding from billionaires, Peter Parker was choosing between paying his landlord and buying more web fluid. And through all of this, there was no safety net, no Tony Stark mentorship, no multiversal brothers to back him up. Just Peter, alone, underpaid, overworked, and carrying the weight of every mistake he'd ever made. Even the trilogy's ending didn't give him closure. He and Mary Jane were together, but not happy. The final scene leaves them sitting in silence, both knowing the cost of their love, both unsure if the future could ever be brighter than the past. If Tobey's Peter was weighed down by the constant grind, Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker lived in the shadow of a single brutal truth. His life could change forever in an instant, and not for the better. Before the spider bite, his story was already painted in loss. His parents, Richard and Mary Parker, vanished when he was just a boy, leaving him with questions that would never get clear answers. Aunt May and Uncle Ben became his world, but there was always that undercurrent of abandonment, that ache of knowing his real family was gone without explanation. Then came the bite. Andrew's Peter didn't stumble into his powers, he was chasing them. His natural curiosity and brilliance led him straight to Oscorp, where he was exposed to the genetically altered spider that rewrote his DNA. The transformation was exhilarating, but with it came the same fatal misstep every Peter makes, underestimating the cost of power. Uncle Ben's death was sudden, brutal, and personal. It wasn't just a gunshot in the distance, it was Peter, standing there moments after the trigger was pulled, realizing that he could have stopped it. That moment hardened him. His early Spider-Man phase wasn't about saving the city, it was about hunting down every man who looked like the one who killed Ben. And just as he began to shift from vengeance to responsibility, life took something else from him. Gwen Stacy's father, Captain George Stacy, died during the battle with the Lizard in the first film. His final words to Peter weren't thanks, they were a warning. Stay away from Gwen to keep her safe.
I want you to promise me something, okay? Leave Gwen out of it. Promise me that. Huh? You promise me.
It was a promise Peter tried to keep and failed. By the time The Amazing Spider-Man 2 began, Peter was living with that broken promise. He couldn't stay away from Gwen, and she was the anchor in his chaotic life. She was smart, fearless, and willing to fight for their relationship despite the risks.
Yeah.
For a while, it almost looked like they could make it work. They laughed, they planned a future, they dreamed about moving to England together. But Peter Parker's life doesn't allow happy endings. Electro's rampage pulled Peter back into the fight, and in the chaos, Harry Osborn emerged with his own vendetta, transformed into the Green Goblin. And then came the clock tower. The scene is burned into Spider-Man history. Gwen, kidnapped by Harry, dangled high above the ground as the gears and machinery thundered around her. Peter fought with everything he had, webbing Goblin and trying to keep Gwen safe at the same time. But in a split second, she fell. Peter dove after her, firing a single desperate web. The strand caught her, but the force of the stop snapped her neck before he could pull her to safety. She died instantly. There was no misunderstanding, no, maybe she'll be okay. She was gone, and Peter was left holding her body, sobbing, in the wreckage of a battle he just barely survived. It wasn't just the loss of the love of his life, it was the loss of his last person. His parents were gone, Uncle Ben was gone, Captain Stacy was gone. Now Gwen, the one person who saw both Peter and Spider-Man and loved them equally, was gone too. After that, Peter disappeared. He didn't swing through the city. He didn't stop crimes. He just stopped. The bright, witty Spider-Man vanished.
Here's the thing. Everything that happened to Andrew's Spider-Man definitely is a good reason to hang up this suit. Because it feels like that now, since you got these powers, everybody around you is dying. Which that pretty much is like a canon event, but it's like, damn. I forgot that Captain Stacy did die. I forgot.
Replaced by a shell of someone who'd given everything and lost everything back. And it wasn't until No Way Home that we learned the truth. In those lost years, he became bitter, more violent, and more dangerous. He still saved people, but without joy, without hope. He was a hero running on empty.
I carried on, tried to keep going, try to keep being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, because I know that's what she would have wanted, but at some point I stopped pulling my punches. I got rageful.
And that's why Andrew's Spider-Man hits differently. His tragedy isn't the slow erosion of a life like Tobey's, it's the kind of trauma that freezes you in place. A single moment replayed in your head every day.
Because it's like this, chat. I don't mean to keep pausing, but Tobey did go through something, 100%. He always did get back up, but it was always punching him down. And then at the end of Spider-Man 3, and he got that dance from Mary Jane, it feels like that things is slowly getting to normal. Whereas Andrew, he still had that scar from losing his girl. And not only that, he tried to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So even if we saw that ending from Amazing Spider-Man 2, it got to a point where like, nah, it's like I still miss her. Now I'm rageful now. I'm bitter. I'm not, etc. So I just want to see what he says about Tom, because now I'm seeing something different, but at the same time, y'all both still had y'all Aunt May's. So that's what's like, it's like that. But let's keep it going.
Rewrites who you are. He didn't just lose Gwen. He lost the part of himself that believed being Spider-Man could ever make his life better. But Tom Holland's Spider-Man, his story isn't about one loss or even a string of them. It's about choosing to lose everything, giving up more than either of the others ever had to, not because he wanted to, but because it was the only way to save the people he loved.
What?
They're coming here because of me, right?
I don't want to hear that shit, Fly. I want to hear that shit. You don't get it, bro.
This time, make everyone forget who Peter Parker is.
You don't get it, bro.
Make everyone forget. Me.
No.
But it would work, right?
Yeah, it would work. But you gotta understand, that would mean that everyone who knows and loves you, we'd have no memory of you. It would be as though you never existed.
I know.
Here we go. Here it is. Y'all don't get it. Bro, this is a Spider-Man. And I'm going to keep saying this. This is a Spider-Man who was giving everything. This was a Spider-Man who was given everything. And then at this moment, well, shit. Everybody knew who Peter was and all that stuff. But like, come on, man. Unable to cast a spell. Bro, because, Peter, he was trying to say the spell multiple times. It was messed up. That is Peter's fault. But at the end of the day, he is a kid. He was a kid at the time. I that's what I will say. But for him to be a Spider-Man that is given everything, money, technology, yeah, he was a Sorcerer Supreme, but now he's not because they thwipped or whatever the fuck they call it. So the nigga just Doctor Strange. The Spider-Man was given everything. He was given everything, and At this point, it was either have everything be, destroyed because he wants to have this normal life and still have the friends and family that he has, or save the universe by doing this one thing, even though it's going to fuck up his life. He already lost Aunt May. Now he don't have his Uncle Ben, his parents, or Aunt May. He lost his girl, lost his friend, and he didn't even graduate college. I mean, graduate high school. So how? Not to mention, how was Spider-Man able to mass? But they lost there because they did what was right. That's the thing. Tom did what he had to do to make it right. And on top of all that, Spider-Man can best Doctor Strange. And bro, like y'all are underestimating Spider-Man. Sorry, I can't agree on that. Y'all are underestimating him. You underestimated my boy. I can't, bro. Like it. Yes, from the outside of it, it doesn't make sense. But if you just look throughout the entire timeline of Tom Holland Spider-Man, this was his fate. This was his fate to lose everything because he was given everything. It's the truth. It's the truth. No matter if it's plot or not. Let's be real. If you want to talk about plot, Tobey Maguire losing his powers. That is fucking plot. That's plot. Let's keep it a buck. Andrew lost his girl. Andrew lost his girl, but not his powers. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck. The other lost their aunt because they did what was, huh? The other lost their aunt because they did what was right. That's the thing. Like, even though it was so stupid for Tom to bring in the villains and cure them, and he lost Aunt May in the process, he did what was right because that's what Spider-Man does. You have to understand, like Peter Parker, he believes in second chances when it comes to even his most deadliest villains that he come up against. So for him to do that, it's not out of character. It's definitely in character. That's how I know that people don't really understand. Like, even though it looks stupid from the outside, bro, that's literally his character. He gives people, like, he gives second chances, and even though he's about to kill the fuck out of Green Goblin, he was stopped, and he just kept being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Regardless of everything he lost, he still became the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But
Do
look,
it.
let's just listen.
And that choice would leave him with nothing. When Tom Holland's Peter Parker swung into the MCU, he didn't start his journey alone in a wrestling ring or on the streets of New York. He started on the Avengers side of a civil war, handpicked by Tony Stark, outfitted with tech way beyond his years, and given a front row seat to some of the biggest battles in superhero history. He was the wide-eyed kid living his dream. And for a while, it really was a dream. He had the mentorship of Iron Man, the thrill of swinging between skyscrapers in a suit worth more than his aunt's entire apartment, and the kind of validation neither Tobey's nor Andrew's Spider-Man ever had at his age. He was Spider-Man before he even knew who Peter Parker was supposed to be. But dreams don't last long in this universe. The first cracks came in Infinity War. Peter wasn't just helping friendly neighborhood civilians anymore. He was beamed into space aboard an alien ship, fighting alongside Iron Man, Doctor Strange.
Let's get this out of the way. I'm gonna say this right now. Everybody's trash talking Tom Holland Spider-Man because of John Watts' version of Spider-Man, but everybody knows that the true Spider-Man of the MCU was Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. Bro, the Russo brothers did so amazing with Spider-Man. It's not even funny. Every time that Spider-Man was on the screen in Infinity War or Endgame or Civil War, bro, he was not no bitch. He wasn't a bitch. It was the Homecoming trilogy that kind of like, all right, even giving him his own AI. I didn't like that, but at the time it was cool. But I don't like that. So, um, Fly, I don't want to hear shit from you. You had Batman and Robin.
and the Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah, Batman and
to
Robin.
stop
What the fuck?
Thanos. They
Like,
came
bad,
closer than anyone to beating
badass.
him,
What are you talking
but
about?
failed. And when Thanos snapped his fingers, Peter felt it before he understood it. The dizzying weakness, the panic in his voice as he grabbed onto Tony and said, "I don't feel so good."
I don't feel so good.
That was the last thing he said before he turned to dust in
Bro,
Tony's
like,
arms.
shut the
For
fuck
5
up.
years, Peter Parker was gone, vanished. No Spider-Man swinging through Queens, no Peter in school. And then, after the surviving Avengers reversed the snap, he was suddenly back on Titan, and Doctor Strange was telling him they had to go. No time to process, no time to breathe. The next thing he knew, he was stepping through a portal into the endgame battle. There was Tony, alive, armored, and fighting, and they embraced in the middle of chaos. "Oh, this is nice," Tony said, masking the relief in his voice.
Oh, this is nice.
They fought hard, Peter even activating the Iron Spider suit's instant kill mode to protect the Infinity Gauntlet. But by the end of the battle,
Activate instant kill. I got this. Oh, I got this.
Tony made the ultimate sacrifice to defeat Thanos, and Peter was once again left holding a dying mentor in his arms. Tony Stark's death wasn't just another funeral, it ripped away the anchor holding Peter steady. And in the months after, the world decided he was the natural successor, the next Iron Man, the leader of the Avengers. The weight wasn't just heavy, it was crushing. And it came at a time when Peter still wanted to be a normal high school kid who could take MJ to the movies without worrying about alien invasions. Then came Far From Home. A school trip to Europe was supposed to be his escape, a chance to step away from the shadow Tony left behind. But instead, he walked right into the arms of Quentin Beck, Mysterio, a man who seemed like the perfect replacement hero, only to betray him in the worst possible way. Beck didn't just try to kill him, he destroyed Peter's secret identity, broadcasting it to the entire world and framing him for murder.
Spider-Man's real name is... Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker.
Overnight, Peter Parker became public enemy number 1. That's where No Way Home began, with his name and face plastered everywhere, his friends hounded by the press, and his future ripped away when MIT rejected all of them because of the controversy. Desperate to fix it, Peter turned to Doctor Strange, asking him to make the world forget he was Spider-Man.
The entire world's about to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
But Peter's heart got in the way. He kept asking for exceptions, for MJ, for Ned, for May, and those interruptions cracked the spell wide open. The fallout was unlike anything he'd faced. Villains from across the multiverse, people who knew Spider-Man's identity and other realities, slipped into his world. Ock, Green Goblin, Electro, Sandman, the Lizard. Strange wanted to send them back to die in their own timelines, but Peter couldn't accept that. He fought Strange for control of the spell's containment device, trapping him in the mirror dimension so he could try to cure the villains and give them a second chance. It was a noble plan. It was also a mistake. Norman Osborn, or rather the Goblin, turned on him. The fight that followed
Bro, at the end of the day, bro, he was still representing himself as a kid. He was still a kid. A kid, like, if you are Spider-Man and you have your best friend knowing that you're Spider-Man, your girlfriend, and anybody else that you want to know is Spider-Man, you want to know that they know, like, you want to have them still be Spider-Man. At the end of the day, let's keep it a buck. This Spider-Man was really based off of Ultimate Spider-Man from the comics. Because the way he was moving, the way he was acting, bro, he kind of represented a little bit of Ultimate Spider-Man. So it's like it's not Tobey Maguire or it's not Andrew Garfield or it's not the 90s. This is a Spider-Man who's still immature and doesn't know about responsibilities at all until something happens to where he really has to understand responsibility. So that's
through
just
Happy
the way
Hogan's
it is.
apartment and ended with Aunt May gravely injured. She
Look,
still managed
this
to
is everything that he's done. Everything that he's done trying to help them and stuff, this is his fault, which is part of his origin.
tell Peter the words that have defined every Spider-Man before him.
You have power, and with great power, there must also come great responsibility.
Moments later, she died in his arms. Jonah Jameson's voice rang out on giant screens nearby, blaming her death on Spider-Man. That was the moment Tom Holland's Peter Parker stopped being a kid. From there, he teamed up with Tobey and Andrew.
Exactly. Y'all not getting it. Y'all are complaining about Tom's Spider-Man for being a kid with the with the powers of a spider. It's literally a kid with spider powers. Until this one thing happens to him to where he has to lock in. Come on. Come on. Like I will defend Tom Spider-Man at all times. Toby and Andrew do not need defending, but I will not do this. I won't do it. Another level of magic from Infinity because he saw. Yeah. Let's see. Well, yes. Okay, there is plot holes. Just like there's plot holes. It may be Spider-Man 3. Definitely Spider-Man 3. And Spider-Man 2. All of them got plot holes for real. But lately, what I've been seeing. Bruh, nah. Let me see.
Drew Spider-Man
Let's
to
see
cure
what
the
he's gonna
villains,
say. Let's see what
battling
he's
them
gonna say. Maybe
atop the
that
Statue
makes
of
sense.
Liberty. But when the Goblin destroyed Strange's containment
Regardless,
box, the sky ripped
I'm not
open.
gonna argue
The
who has
multiverse
the
was
most tragic
breaking.
story, 'cause
The
it
only
all
way to
makes
fix
sense.
it was unthinkable. Everyone in every universe had to forget Peter Parker existed. Not just that he was Spider-Man, that he was anyone at all. It was the ultimate sacrifice. He said goodbye to the other Spider-Men, then to Ned and MJ, promising he'd find them again. He didn't tell them he loved them. MJ stopped him, wanting him to wait until they met again. And then, with a nod from Strange, it was done. The spell worked, the multiverse closed, the world forgot Peter Parker. When we see him next, he's walking into the coffee shop where MJ works. She doesn't know him. Ned doesn't know him. The life he'd fought for, his friends, his future, his connection to the Avengers, was gone. He considered telling them everything, but when he saw the bandage on MJ's head, he made a different choice. She was safe. That had to be enough. So he left. He found a small, empty apartment in New York, sewed himself a new suit from scratch, no Stark tech, no magic upgrades, no team to call if things go wrong. Just a kid with nothing left but a mission, to keep being Spider-Man, even if no one remembers the boy behind the mask. And that's the heartbreaking difference with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Tobey's Peter endured years of bad luck. Andrew's Peter was broken by sudden tragedy. But Tom's Peter, he's died, come back, lost his mentor.
Oh my God, he did die! He been dead for 5 years! Came back, everybody's different. And then he lost his Aunt May. Oh my God. Y'all can't say nothing no more. Y'all can't say anything anymore. What?
Family, and finally erased himself from the world, all before turning 18. When you line up the three Spider-Men side by side, their pain takes on different shapes. Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker lived through the slow burn of responsibility grinding him down year after year. Every choice cost him something: his money, his friends, his love life. And by the end of his trilogy, he was bruised, tired, and still unsure if the sacrifices had been worth it. His suffering was realistic, relatable, and constant. Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker had a different kind of heartbreak. His tragedies hit like lightning, sudden, violent, and impossible to recover from. Losing Gwen Stacy in his arms wasn't just the emotional peak of his story, it was the breaking point. That single moment rewrote who he was, turning him into a darker, angrier Spider-Man, until No Way Home gave him a sliver of redemption. And then there's Tom Holland's Peter Parker. This is where my personal pick comes in, because when you really look at his story, it's almost absurd how much he lost before he even turned 18. He started with everything most versions of Peter never had at that age: a spot alongside the Avengers, the mentorship of Tony Stark, and tech years ahead of his time. And then, in Infinity War, he was ripped out of life entirely, vanishing for 5 years in the snap, only to return and watch his mentor die almost immediately in Endgame. In Far From Home, he was betrayed by someone he trusted, framed for murder, and had his identity blasted across every screen in the world. In No Way Home, a desperate attempt to fix that mistake backfired, unleashing multiversal chaos. He lost Aunt May, his last family, in a fight that was never even supposed to happen. And then he made the ultimate sacrifice, letting everyone he loved forget he existed. No friends, no MJ, no Ned, no Avengers connection. no support system. He's back at zero, sewing his own suit in a tiny apartment, living completely alone, all before most kids are even graduating high school. Toby's pain was long and heavy. Andrew's was sharp and devastating. But Tom's? It's a pileup of every kind of loss all crammed into a few short years. And the worst part is he chose the final one, erasing himself, because he couldn't live with the idea of putting the people he loved in danger again. That's why, for me, Tom Holland's Peter Parker is the saddest, unluckiest Spider-Man we've ever seen. He's not just carrying scars, he's carrying them into adulthood completely alone.
It's facts. It's facts. Shout out to Spidey Parker. Shout out to Spidey Parker, bro. Shout out. I got to subscribe. Bro, I'm telling you. I'm not just saying this because I'm a fan of Tom Spider-Man, but bro, I tell everybody this. If the ending of No Way Home didn't occur, of him still putting on the mask, he would have been the worst Spider-Man of all time. 100%. The worst Spider-Man since Ultimate Spider-Man. He would have been the worst. But it was all planned out from the jump to give a Spider-Man everything and then later on lose everything and still puts on the mask. Like, bro. Like, that's insane. That's insane to me, bro. Like, a regular person would have oh my god, a regular person would have just very, 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 very depressed, and we don't know what could have happened, but he decided to keep putting on the mask and still became the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Bro, peak. I'm sorry.